getting a YouTube alert for our meeting.
All right, good evening. We're glad to have you here this evening and glad to see our robotics team sitting on the front row. We're excited to have you with us. We ask you to please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item 1.3 is approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approval of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. Item 1.4 is input from the public. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any, and discussion of those comments. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in a legally noticed closed personnel session of the board. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes. A speaker's time may not be reserved, divided, apportioned, or deferred. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been included specifically on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. This is a non-action item. We have one request for public comment from Lynn Hoffman.
Thank you. Before you start timing me, may I please explain that I mailed in my public comment and said that I was not going to be able to do this in only 3 minutes. And I was told that it would be 3 minutes now, and I could do 3 minutes at the end. I could not cut it down because this is information that is really important to all of you and children and parents. And so I will do the best I can. I hope that at the end that there will be people who will stay and listen to the last 3 minutes, because this is about COVID. This is about our future. And this is about things that have just happened in the last few months. So again, thank you. Day 618 of 15 days to flatten the curve. The U.S. Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System up to 11/12/2021 for COVID-19 vax. 654,413 adverse events, 54,962 serious injuries, and 868,664 deaths. Historically, the voluntary reporting of VAERS has been shown to record about 1% of actual events. European countries are not allowing Moderna vaccines for anyone under the age of 30 because of the increased risk of myocarditis. Pfizer numbers are similar here, but anyone 5 or over is urged to be vaxxed. Pfizer has added tromethamine, which has respiratory and other side effects, to their vaccines for kids, and the FDA has also approved for the first time an anticoagulant for children. Have you seen the ads telling us that kids have strokes and heart problems too? Is this in preparation for the coming consequences of the vaccine on children? Have you seen the list of young and not so young vaccinated athletes who have suddenly collapsed? Some European countries are waiting before allowing children to get vaxxed to see how it goes in the US. Canada just approved 5 to 11-year-olds, but with 8 weeks, not 3 weeks like in the US between doses. Canada does not, as far as I can tell right now, require parental consent even for these young kids to receive the vaccines. Only about 1,500 children were vaccinated, and they were only followed, this was for the Pfizer trial, they were only followed for about 2 months. And they're telling us they believe these are safe and effective. An 11-year-old will be given a third of the dose of a 12-year-old who is given a regular adult dose. A 5-year-old will be given the same dose as an 11-year-old. Does that make sense? All of you know someone who had serious reactions to their vaccines. I bet you know of people in our county who died suddenly, days or weeks after they were vaxxed. Just check out our local obituaries. What about anyone who was vaxxed and was hospitalized or died of COVID? It is taboo to talk about that, and even medical professionals are not allowed to say that these could be vax related.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a comment before we move on? Right, thank you. We will move on to our presentation from our robotics team. Come on up.
Hello, board members. This is Amber and Central Office Administration. I am Shami Rodriguez. I'm a teacher out at Independence Valley, which is northwest of here and near Tuscarora, so we're not I-80. And I have the privilege of hanging out with these fine 8 kiddos every day. We are 3rd through 8th grade this year. And a couple years ago, I was selected to take part in the first Lego League robotics training, which was sponsored in part by Tesla. And so it's a 5-year thing as far as the Tesla training and sponsorship of it. And we competed 2 years ago in 2019. And at that time I had 10 and I had kindergarten till 8th grade. And it was a huge range and they really only recommend it from 4th to 8th. And anyway, we went to Reno and we showed our stuff and the judges were pretty impressed because all 10 of us were there and we had fun and we learned a lot. So before I go any further, I want to thank all of you for your service to education. I really appreciate that. And I will turn it over for the most part to my students. They're going to start off by introducing themselves and then they're going to tell you about the program. My name is Casey London, and what I have to do is find what mission will be.
My name is Nellie Joel, and what I love about robotics is programming. Hi, my name is Sarah, and I am 10 years old, and I also like to program the robot.
My name is Daxton Melendez. I am 10 years old and I like to watch the robot complete the mission.
My name is Sarah Pfeiffer. I'm 11 years old, and I like troubleshooting. My name is Grace Stoll. I'm 12 years old, and I like building missions.
My name is Wyland and I am 9 years old and I like designing merch for us to wear at the tournament.
My name is Mamie Rodriguez, and I am 12, and I like to figure out how to program the robot.
Now, Sarah's going to give you an overview of the program.
Hello, we are from Independence Valley School in Tuscarora. For the 3rd year, we are doing First Lego League Robotics, which involves research, programming, problem solving, coding, and engineering. Every year in robotics, we have a theme. This year's theme is Cars with Connect, where kids like us learn how cargo is transported, sorted, and delivered. And in the time we spend doing robotics, we have learned that this has a lot to do in our lives.
So when we get the pieces, they'll come in this long box with like about maybe 20-30 bags in them. And those bags will have numbers on them, so you know what you're building, and there'll be a like instruction book so you don't build it wrong. And if you build it wrong, like one missed piece and it can go wrong, so you have to go through it and make sure you got everything right. And then for our field setup, we have a mat that we get every year and a table that has walls on it so the robot don't fall. And there's outlines on it so that you'll know where to put the missions and you'll Velcro them.
I'm doing the core values and teamwork for us means working together to solve our missions. Inclusion. Inclusion is making sure everyone has a job and is included. Fun. Fun is doing an activity together and enjoy. Impact. Impact is inspiring someone in a positive way. Discovery. Discovery is finding out something that you did not know about. Innovation. Innovation means new ideas.
Sarah, do you want to go for the competition?
On December 11th, we will be going to Reno for our first LEGO League Challenge. We will not just be judged on how a robot completes missions, but also how we use core values in our innovation project presentation and robot design.
So I'm going to interrupt for just a minute. So, well, a lot of the program involves figuring out what the robot needs to do. When they go to the competition, we're also judged on how well our team displays and uses the core values, which is what Amelia just spoke about. So it's really got a lot of character building that's naturally built into it, but we're also observed at that, whether we're like actually competing or just when we're on the facility competing, they're always watching us. And with that, I will let maybe you want to talk about the innovation project?
In first LEGO League, we are given an innovation project to try and figure out how we can help our community. This year, our innovation project is how we can improve transportation of goods. So for this, we came up with a Valley Runner.
The Valley Runner would go to town once a week and they would get parts, groceries, and or whatever it is you needed. They would then put your supplies into your drop-off boxes. It has been brought to our attention that not everyone in the valley can go to town when they need to. And because of the pandemic, not everybody in the valley feels safe going to town.
The drop-off box is kind of like a mailbox where you put your stuff in.
Some of the possible locations that we would put the drop-off box would be this Lady Pub sign or the Taylor Canyon Resort. We looked at buying one.
The drop-off box.
Yeah, buying a drop-off box, and it was too small and too expensive. So we're wanting to try building one, and we think we know one that would be willing to help us build one. So a problem that we have come across in the drop-off boxes in the Valley Runner is someone to oversee the whole process. Someone to make sure everything is going smoothly, and someone to be there to say that the job is not being done as well as it should be. So kind of someone who can oversee the whole process.
So we asked some people about what they think. We asked the Lady Clubs about how they think that we should change the transportation of the goods. And they sent the survey.
We sent out. The kids made up surveys and we sent them out to the Valley residents. And now we're going to switch gears. So that was one component of the competition. Now we're switching back to talking to the competition in general. So Wyland, if you'd like to discuss it.
This year for our fundraiser, we sold Sears candy, and we're gonna use all that money to do all the like gas, they take care of gas, food, and fun stuff and expenses and like parts for our robot. So this is our robot that we're using. So first you have to start off with the EV3 Mindstorm brick, and then you build a little body for it. And the EV3 Mindstorm brick is kind of like the brains of the whole process. It controls the whole robot. And
Do you have directions for building the robot?
yes, so if it doesn't hook up to your computer, then you can take a cord and you can hook it up to the robot and you program the robot.
But do you choose how you want to design it?
Yes.
So what goes into deciding how to design it?
So, so when you design a robot, you pretty much, if you want it to be pretty simple, you can just do it like this and just have, something sticking out to push something. And, if you want it to be like big, then you can make it big, but it's better to make it smaller because it doesn't take up a whole bunch of space on the back. So the way that you first start off building the robot is, so you first have the brick, and so there are instructions on the computer on how you can build the robot and put it together. There's also a lot of inspiring people who have built robots, and on YouTube, you can they'll give you a tutorial on the best models and the best way you can build a robot.
All right. Jason?
The missions we have done were the unload the cargo trips, but we have problems getting back to home. And we can do, well, we're working on the train, but you're supposed to fix the train tracks and unload it, but we only got the train tracks. Yeah, maybe. So a skill very much used in First Lego League is problem solving. Whether it's to a disagreement with your teammates or you just cannot get the robot to do what you need it to do. So you can break it down into 3 steps, which are finding the problem, discussing the problem, and finding a solution. We thank you so much for your time and do.
This the programming.
So basically, the program controls the robot and tells the robot what to do. There are bricks that you stack together to specifically tell what the robot to do. One brick, for example, could tell the robot to move forward, or turn, or move backwards.
And so the bricks are located where?
With a little side panel, and you can choose on the computer, on the E3 Mindstorm app, and you can choose. There's different things. You can choose if you want to have sound, or if you want it to just move forward or backward. There's different sections for each thing.
And so I'm going to add a little bit more. With the theme, like Gracie alluded to, so this year our theme is Cargo Connect. So everything on our mat has to do with transporting cargo. So there's the ship that Jason talked about that you have to unload. Many of those are sitting out in the ocean right now. And, the trains carry cargo, so we've got to make sure the trains can get down the track. Another possible mission is to deliver a package to a doorstep. Another one is unloading a plane, releasing a package from a helicopter. There's 14 different missions that they can complete. They only have 2.5 minutes for the robot to complete their mission. So they have to decide, and each mission has a different point value. And so the kids have to decide which missions they think they can accomplish with what they know about robots, and if they don't know, then they start YouTubing. And which ones they think we can program to accomplish to get the most point value in the 2.5 minutes. And then the other thing I would say is, so our field is a little bit less than 8 feet long. It's the size of a piece of plywood, but I don't know, maybe a bit shorter. And they program the robot, and they only have a little space that they can touch the robot in. And then they have to push their button and let the robot run its mission. And sometimes it does, like any good computer does exactly what you want it to do. And other times it does not. And that's where the troubleshooting falls into play. So, May, you can pick it up now.
We want to thank you again for fitting us into your schedule. And do you have any questions for us?
First, I'm going to applaud and then we're going to ask questions. Okay. Go ahead. Questions from the board.
Shwoo, you're done, right? All of you did great. I don't have a question offhand. I just want to compliment every single one of you, all different ages, speaking in front of a board, staring at you intently. It can be tough for adults. So good job, guys. So when you do that, so how do you guys choose which mission to do? What's your criteria to make sure you can get as many missions done as possible in the time limit?
Well, it's kind of up to you. The way that we've been trying to get it is we find the missions with the most point value and the missions that seem the easiest and simplest to accomplish.
Thanks.
So what kind of motions do you have to think about the robot doing?
The robot has to be able to drive, obviously, and like lift and be able to like drop stuff off. Squeeze sometimes is a very good thing to have. But you have a little arm motor which can control it so it can go up, down, left or right, and sometimes like grab things and open. But other than that, that's kind of everything.
So the more tasks there are, would be a higher point value for that. So that exercise, is that kind of how you're deciding how to pick which ones? Is like, how many can we fit into this?
Yeah, that is kind
Okay,
of.
perfect.
Other
So how-
questions? Oh, go ahead, Matt.
How long do you have to program the robot once you get there? Or do you have to have everything pre-programmed for all 14 missions? And then you just, once you get there, you say, okay, these are the missions we're going to do. Or do you get to then see the missions and say, okay, we've got to program this real quick to go from there?
Well, we have a few months to build the robot, to get everything set up, and also to like run dry, to like kind of do practice missions. So yeah, we program the robot ahead of time, and then when we get to the competition, we just have the robot. They don't let you program anymore when you're at the competition.
So you just say run program alpha or whatever, and then
Kinda
it
like
does
that.
its thing. Okay, great.
How do you do all 14 missions?
No, you try to get as most as you can and get the most done and get the most points. So then you have a good score and you can maybe make it to the next competition.
And is the Dropbox portion of your class, is that something that you need to explain to judges at the competition?
Yes, we have to present what our robot can do at the competition arena, and we have to present our innovation project.
And for those of you who have been have all of you been on the team for more than 1 year?
No.
Not quite everyone. Most of us have. though.
Okay, so there are folks within Elko County that don't understand the distance on Independence Valley and why folks only go once a week to town. How do you explain that to folks that live in an urban area? Is that something you've considered? Because I think I understand where you're coming from and I think it's ingenious, but I think somebody that lives a block from a grocery store is not going to understand that concept. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so, the way that I would probably explain it is we live around an hour. And a lot of the people out in the valley are ranchers, so they're kind of always cramped on time. So that would be probably the best way I would think to explain it.
Okay, because I think it's a good thing to do. And I think it's also, I appreciate you being an ambassador for rural Nevada, where folks oftentimes don't understand the issues there. So thank you guys for being part of our youngest ambassadors. Great job.
We could use a box in Wendover too. For sure. I had one for Sarah. I think you said you like troubleshooting the most. I was wondering if you get any work. These guys seem pretty sharp.
Yeah, I had, was last week? Yeah. Last week I had to rebuild one of our missions because it wasn't working right. And then sometimes I help with programming.
Oh, nice. You guys
So,
are-
go ahead.
I'll just say you guys are an impressive group. They're very well prepared. I wish you the best of luck at your competition. I think you'll do well.
There's really a lot that goes into it. I can't say, like how much they have to think about how to accomplish a single task. And so like the cargo ship, we can get the robot over to the cargo ship and they can get the cargo off, but in theory, we should just be able to reverse the reverse the process to getting back to home so that they can getting pointed in the other direction to do another one. And it doesn't always work the way it's supposed to. So. Thank you for your time.
Good job.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Shammy, thank you for bringing your team. You guys, good luck in your competition, and we hope you come back and give us a report.
Good luck.
All right, we will move on to item 1.6, receive a presentation from citizens for Elko County Schools. This is a non-action item. We know you guys have a long drive. Thanks for coming.
Hello, Chris Johnson, 123 Woods Court. So back again, I was looking at the calendar. The next school board meeting will be the same day as the election, so it's right on top of us. So really, we just have been out and about in the community, and we have some more presentations. We'll be at Rotary on December 1st. I have an agenda item with the county commissioners on December 1st, and then we'll have another presentation scheduled Thursday. We're hoping for a town hall in Wendover. We're working on a town hall for Carlin. So hopefully we can get those. We've been up to the senior center a couple of times, and we're receiving good response, good questions, a lot of thank yous. And it's been one of the best endeavors that I've been involved in as far as community saying thanks. So that's been really rewarding to be part of it. What I've learned about the school district and about our community has been very, very good, and places that we can improve on as a community, just working with different entities. I look at articles. There's an article that came out today in the Nevada Independent, and I look at that article and I think, okay, how could we work and counter that? And I think this shows that it's important that through the years in between that we keep that, as we've talked about in working with different entities. I had the opportunity to listen to a presentation of a project that the school district had completed, and to me, it just puts it more over the center. The more that I study the issue, the more that I'm convinced that decisions were made that needed to be made, and certainly are hoping that the community sees that as well. So, but yeah, we're closer on top of it now. Early voting will begin this Saturday. And then they'll just have the one polling place at the library for general election. And then the same type setup as far as the voting goes, with mail-in ballots and being able to either vote early or take your ballot in. So again, I mean, what an opportunity. And so we'll just keep working on it and see how this lands.
Hi, so I'm Tiffany. I have been working with Chris and everybody else to go to some of these meetings and be out there and answer some questions. And a few things have come up that we want to touch on. One of them is NRS 361.457 prohibits interlocal agreements to transfer funds from larger governmental bodies like the county to smaller governmental bodies. So no entity goes over that tax cap rate. Elko County and the city of Elko hired applied analysis to take a look at things, and they proposed a workaround to this prohibition, but it didn't offer any sort of legal guidance to support their theory. And there is no other county in the state that has an interlocal agreement with their school districts. So there's no legal precedence to support this scenario that's been presented by applied analysis. It seems if it were possible that other districts experiencing financial hardships would have adopted this approach rather than going under state control. The other thing we want to point out is, these bonds are strictly for capital improvements. That's the whole point. They're not for salaries, books, or supplies. NRS very specifically outlines how this money can be used. It's used to address the bones of our school district. Our children spend their days learning and growing in these schools. They need to feel comfortable and safe in a functional classroom. And having up-to-date structures not only gives the students an inviting area to learn, but it attracts better educators. This in turn will also help attract other industries, our medical professionals, tradesmen, other things that we need in our community. Education is a huge factor when people are looking to move to our area, and us being already isolated makes it difficult to attract new talent. If our district is educating our youth in overcrowded, rundown facilities, it becomes harder to attract these professionals. If we can leave you with one final thought, it would be any of our supporters need to go out there and they need to, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Tiffany or Chris?
No, we appreciate what you're doing. Good
Yeah.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this, actually, Madam Chair and Chris and Tiffany, I apologize. This may be a question more for the district, because I think the district had requested legal opinion through the Attorney General's office regarding.
We asked a question to the Department of Taxation
Okay.
regarding that issue.
And they in turn forwarded it to AG,
They told
right?
us that they felt uncomfortable making that decision and felt that probably needs to go to the Board of Ethics is what they felt.
Have we received any comment on that yet?
We have not submitted it to the Board of Ethics.
Okay.
We're going to wait to see the result of the election.
Great. All right. Thank you. Thank you again.
And I just want to say thank you for your work on behalf of Elko County students. Because like you say, learning in, great facilities does make a big difference. So thank you for your work. We appreciate it. Any other questions or comments?
I was just say regarding Wendover, get with me after the meeting and I may have some, as much as I can to get you guys accommodated. We have something set up with Red Garter. So next available date would be, whenever we can get out there would be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more work on your end to organize it, and we'll be there anytime.
Right. Like I say, it's available. I checked last weekend. So any day that we want to do that, let's get together and figure out the best one going
Okay.
forward, and we'll get you out there to do a presentation.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you again for helping to educate the citizens of Elko County on the importance of funding capital projects for our district. All right, we will move on to item 2.1, receipt review and possible approval of the Ecta intent to bargain. This is for possible action.
Okay, so this is an annual process that we receive from our negotiations team through NSEA and through the Employee Management Relations Board. This is just an annual process. We're recognizing them that we will bargain with Ecta for the 2022 and 2023 school year.
Discussion from the board.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and that is approved. Item 2.2 is receipt, review, and acknowledgement of receipt of current information from Elko County Support Staff Organization, EXO, to retain recognition as the collective bargaining representative under the terms of NRS 288 for the 2022-2023 school year for possible action.
This is a similar process. They worded it much differently and provided some additional paperwork for their application. But as I said, they will bargain for the 22-23 school year. And this is just sort of the annual process we go through.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I noticed the ECSSO bylaws were included. I don't know if it's something were there any changes on this? Is that something that isn't even relevant to us? Other than
The actual statute says that when they do present this, they provide a copy of their bylaws and the master agreement and the annual report. We haven't required that of either group over the years, just because we're familiar with those documents and we would know if they've made changes, okay, as we work through the collective bargaining process. So they just actually provided the full application packet, probably as compared to Ecta, but we don't have a problem with that.
okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? How would the board like to proceed?
Move to acknowledge receipt of the current information from the Elko County Support Staff Organization to retain recognition as the collective bargaining representative under the terms of NRS 288 for the 2022-23 school year.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and that item is approved. Item 2.3 is discussion regarding potential superintendent or interim superintendent search.
Well, so, you know, I put together a little document today so I could add sort of a timeline, but I think Teresa reached out to me in mid-August and said, hey, is there any chance, you know, maybe we could get you back here? And I told her, yes, indeed. You know, well, I told her, let me talk to my wife first. And then I said, yes, I would. And I sort of put the caveat on that just so I can continue to be married, that, you know, it's probably going to be a 2 or 3 month proposition. And more than anything else, I think that the intent with Teresa reaching out to me was to sort of help get a new board in place, okay, and work with those new board members in regards to what relationship they have with the superintendent and their roles, okay? And I was hoping in the training that we took place with last weekend, we would have a little bit more open meeting law and a little bit more ethics and that type of stuff, but I don't feel like we have any concerns about that with any of you at this point in time. And so I feel pretty comfortable with where the district is at right now, okay, in my opinion. Now, that being said, I'm sort of tiptoeing past the 3rd month here. And so I'm hearing about that from home a little bit, just so you know, but I think that, you know, I met with Mike when we first came in there, and Mike and I worked together for, you know, a long time in central office. And, you know, after meeting the team that we have here, and I know that we don't have a lot of depth in regards to central office experience up in central office right now. But I do feel sincerely, okay, that I think that Mike and I probably need to get out of the way a little bit. Mike, you know, is going to be retiring, you know, in June, but I think we need to let these guys take the you know, the district at this point in time and make some decisions. And I think that we do have good leadership in place, okay, with the board. And that's just my belief, you know, at this point in time. And so I talked with Teresa early on and sort of said, maybe I'll stick around through the election date, okay, and then get out of the way. Originally, when I sort of worked with the board, the intent was I was going to lead the Elko committee and I was going to lead the pay-as-you-go agenda, okay. And in the meantime, you know, we didn't know at that point in time that we were going to have all the changes that took place this past summer. So that being said, I was thinking about maybe working to the 1st of November or something like that, and then jumping from this, you know, terminating this contract and working on the pay-as-you-go side. But after sort of looking into that and talking with Teresa, we decided that I would just stay in the role that I was in at this point. So anyways, at this point in time, Xander's getting sort of ready to run for the hills here pretty quick. And so we thought it'd be a good idea to sort of start these conversations. And whether you want to interview potential candidates, you know, my recommendation has been to the board from the start that I think you hire from within, okay? And the reason I say that is we've hired from out outside a number of times, okay? I think that Elko is so diverse and so difficult to really get your arms around for somebody who's not familiar with our county. I think I've told you all the story about Chartwell's and the conversations I had with their CEO in regards to the issues that Elko County deals with that no other school district deals with, multiple time zones, vast different distances, the inability to recruit, quality people. Anyways, all those challenges. I think somebody that knows the culture of all of these communities, okay, before they become the superintendent, I think has a leg up on anybody you're going to bring in. Okay. That being said, I think we do have some young talent, okay, in our district, okay, that I think can fulfill those needs. But in the meantime, I've also told the young talent in this room, okay, that in some ways, this might be a great opportunity for somebody to step up, to get the opportunity to lead the district, to build a relationship with the board, to do that type of stuff, and get into it 2 or 3 months and say, you know what, I think I need to go back to where I came from. You know what I mean? And if you want to bring somebody in, you can bring somebody in, do whatever you want to do. Okay. But I do think that this is a difficult job coming up for the Elko County School District. I think we're going to be challenged for resources. Okay. I'm hoping this election passes. Okay. I think that we're going to have some challenges going into the future. Okay. And it's going to take a pretty good leadership team to facilitate that. Okay. That being said, Mike and I have been through that before. All right. And what I've told the board is, once I quit being the superintendent, I'm going to take that superintendent's contract and terminate that contract. But then I'm going to renew the financial consultant contract I had with the district before. Okay. And if you guys need help or there's situations that come up, I'm going to help work there. Plus, I'm going to work with Julie in regards to putting together those budgets in the spring. And so that's sort of where I'm at right now. And I think it's good for you guys to have a conversation about that, sort of what your intentions are.
All right, thanks, Jeff, for getting us rolling. So I'd just like to have some thoughts from the board on how we would, do we want to look for an interim superintendent? Do we want to start looking full-time? How would we like to proceed, knowing that, Jeff isn't going to be with us much longer? And we hope that means you're just going home, Jeff, nothing else, not far away.
No, just going home.
I think right now, an interim.
Yeah, interim seems most.
Because people aspiring to be superintendents probably aren't looking for a job right now. If we waited till spring, if we were going to hire somebody, if we hired an interim superintendent that didn't work out and started an interview process in the spring when people would be looking for that sort of job, I think would be a better move.
I would agree, because I feel that most people that would apply would probably be in the middle of a contract, and we'd rather not have somebody breaking a contract to come with us, because my viewpoint is if they're willing to break it once, they're probably willing to break it a second time.
I'm not sure if that would happen if it's someone within the district about breaking a contract. Do you mean someone from somewhere else, Matt?
That's a good point. But even within the district, if we're not using it as an interim opportunity and we're simply moving away, I don't know who qualifies as superintendent, but even internally, we'd either leave a classroom empty, leave a site administration open. I think an interim would get us through that, to be able to consider that a little bit better and be able to adjust as the district plan better for those schools. But I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Zander in that we need to see what we have locally. I think we've got a district that does have tremendous talent, and in visiting with some of the site administrators, granted it's only the Elko Spring Creek ones yet, I haven't been able to travel to some of our other sites. Most of them have said it's a very difficult district to come into from the outside. And most of them have said that there is an advantage to being local. So I think that we need to give the opportunity for those that are homegrown, so to speak. So I would agree with that sentiment as well.
Can I just ask, for the opening for superintendent that's in the human resource side, does that have a close date?
At the moment, it does not have a close date.
Okay. So do we need to put one on there if we're going to actively search past our interim?
Well, that's a decision we need to make as a board.
Okay. So it can be just open until it's filled?
Are there current applications? Are there current applicants, I should say, that are in, that have not withdrawn? Or that have, I don't know if you can withdraw your withdrawal?
Mike, do you know of any current applicants?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I haven't seen anything recently that's coming. And, you know, as Iris said, this isn't really the time of year people are looking for a superintendent position. And so I do feel like looking for or leaning more heavily toward an interim superintendent would probably be the direction we should go right now.
I'd have to echo both those sentiments. One thing that I got from training that we just went to also was something that's important when you're looking for a superintendent is to make sure that we all have our goals in mind and what we want to try and accomplish, because it doesn't make sense to pick somebody before you know what you're trying to do. So I feel like that's something we should also address up and coming to that. But that does all makes perfect sense, you know, with the 17,000 square miles and multiple time zones and everything. You're right that somebody from inside is going to be able to deal with that and be able to wrap their head around that a little easier. And then as far as going to interim, with the time of year being what it is, it certainly makes perfect sense. A question I had though was, are there any parameters, or is that simply something we can make up and say, you know, this is going to be on an interim basis for 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever? Is that just whatever we decide? Or are there any kind of legal parameters to that?
Well, I can tell you sort of the process that, you know, I've discussed this with a couple of you, but I think that maybe, you know, you just open it up for an in-district interim superintendent, you know, a transfer into an interim superintendent, and you could have some applications on that. And then you guys could sort of take a look at that, and you could use the same job description criteria you use for the full-time superintendent's job to sort of judge where, you know, what is a priority to you in regards to bringing in a superintendent. My opinion, or what I sort of talked to Teresa about, was that maybe, you know, this is going to be an interim 4-month contract. Okay, and it's not going to be a full-blown, you know, superintendent salary contract. It's going to be a 4-month contract, and whoever takes the job is going to know that. Okay, and where that process ends up is where that process ends up. I think if the board is happy with the person you have in there in interim and think that, you know, this is the guy we want, then, you know, you can go from that point on. Okay, however you want to do that. And the second thing I was going to say is that, you know, when I've talked to some of the administrators in central office, you know, I think the most important thing that we've started back up since I've come here, okay, is educating everybody, whether we're educating the public through communications, okay, whether we're educating board members, okay, in regards to why we're making decisions and that type of stuff. And so I think that that's sort of the focus and in today's day and age and sort of where we're at right now. I know that we need to work on goals and we need to improve graduation rates and student achievement, okay, but I'm also telling you a little bit, we also need to get back to normal, okay. We need to, our people are overworked right now and sort of stressed out. So I think that we need, whoever you put in there, it needs to be a good communicator. Okay, so you can have that person that can communicate. I'm going to tell you that hiring Kayla for the position you have in there, she's indispensable and has helped so much in regards to putting together these press releases and things that we have out there right now. So I think you could do whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. I don't know if you have to do an actual 4-month contract, or you could do a contract with a time period on it. It's probably up to you. And I guess just
in a normal hiring cycle, or however that would be, what would be a normal date? Is that same as fiscal year where you would generally start them? You know, if you're
so a regular superintendent is going to be hired on a fiscal year, so it's going to be July 1 to June 30
okay.
for a regular superintendent. If the board wants to keep the option open to where you could advertise, you know, you're probably going to want to have a decision made, you know, by the 1st of March, because you're going to have that information out. And those interviews normally for superintendents, that time of year, I believe, normally take place in April or May. You know what I mean? So that's probably the timeline you'd want to look at in regards to leaving you guys the flexibility in regards to what decisions you can make, okay? And in the meantime, while you have that interim position at, you could have the other position open to get some applicants if you wanted to, okay? You know, I think, you know, what Ira said's right. I don't think this time of year, most employed superintendents aren't filling out applications. Yeah, it's usually the guys that don't have any work that are filling out applications. So,
There's one in Clark County, you know.
yeah.
Oh, they hired him back.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
I like-
Anyways, so.
Sorry, go ahead. I like the idea of a smaller contract, smaller for fewer months, and doing some interviews for the interim as well as advertising for the superintendent. To me, it makes more sense, like what Mr. Zander said. And I like the idea of having some interviews for even interim, just, I'm not familiar with everybody, so it'd be nice to know their thoughts. And I do like Jeff's idea. I think we were in the same session. We need to have goals so that maybe not so much the interim superintendent, but the applicants for superintendent. So we can ask them questions about, here are our goals. How are you going to help us get to those goals? So when we do some goal setting, I think that will be helpful.
I'd like to clarify just a little bit because I have a tendency to think as I talk, and that can get me into trouble. I don't want to discourage any of our current central office employees, site administrators, teachers, whoever it may be. When I had said somebody's going to be breaking a contract, I don't want that to discourage anyone at all. Because I realize after I said it, it's like, well, what are you saying? You know, everybody's going to have to move. So I want to make sure that within the district, everybody's encouraged to be able to do that. We'll be able to adjust, but that was kind of that comment of, you know, we're gonna have to do some backfilling at some point anyways. I also want to make sure that within the Nevada system of higher education, with all of the presidents of their colleges that they have moving around and so forth, there is some kind of policy or legality. I don't know what it was, but I believe it was most recently with the UNLV presidency, in which there was a dispute as to whether an interim president could run for the office itself, and they restricted that. So I want to make sure that if we're going with an interim, that person has every right and ability to be able to run for a permanent position if we open up that a second time. So if we can just confirm what that was, make sure that's not a state law. Maybe it was one of NSHE's weird things that they have. I shouldn't say weird, but something that's just unknown and not something that makes sense to me. I just want to make sure that we don't pigeonhole anybody.
I'll get an opinion from Rob on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, say that's a great thing to make sure we understand before we move forward on anything. All right, any other thoughts or questions?
How much longer can we kick the can down the road with you?
Well, I'm hoping.
Are you going to give us a drop dead day?
Well, you know, I've been telling everybody probably around the 14th of December. Okay. But the other part, and I've told these guys up here, I'm not going anywhere. You know what I mean? If you guys need me for something, I can help you out. You know what I mean? You know, on a day-to-day basis up there, things are, you know, they take care of themselves. These guys are doing all the work. You know what I mean? I have had some meetings with parents, or, you know, and I've been helping the Chris and Tiffany and Tammy in regards to some of their stuff. But other than that, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not billing 8 hours a day right now. You know what I mean? And so I can help you guys out. But I'm thinking for sure by the end of December, it probably need to be.
By the next meeting, we better have a.
So also, you know, just to follow up with that just a little bit. So this is a different, I'll talk about this in the superintendent item in regards to future meetings, because I believe we're going to have two board meetings in December, one on the 14th and one on the 21st. And that has to do with, we had an extension on our audit. Okay. And the audit firm, the lead auditor for the audit firm, came down with COVID. And so the audit firm came to us and said, we need to ask for another extension. And taxation was pretty difficult on Julie and I in regards to giving us a full month's extension. So we got the okay from the audit firm that they would have financials available for us on the 21st of December. And that's a Tuesday night. We could have a board meeting that night so the board can approve the audit report. Then that can get sent to taxation and the Division of Insurance and everybody that's out there. So we're all right there. So in the meantime, you're going to have 2 meetings in December also, if you wanted to, take care of some of this during those meetings.
Another thing that I picked up from Nevada System of Higher Education is a minimum advertisement period or open period. Are we restricted to how long this can be open? Okay.
So you guys could ask us to advertise an interim superintendent position tonight, and we could put that on the website tomorrow, and we could put whatever timeline you'd like on it.
So Madam Chair, I'm assuming you're going to want some action or a motion on this. And so I'm happy to move forward with that or yield to someone else. However, I don't want us to have to come back to it because it wasn't specific enough. And I don't want to be so specific as to hogtie our staff. So how, in the past, how have these motions been made? I mean, can I simply say, move to direct staff to open up an interim superintendent for proposal to have interviews by X date, or is that too specific? What are you looking for?
It's not an action item. so-
Yes, well, no, this is an action item.
Oh, is
So
it?
we can make a decision.
Well,
And I do feel like we need to move forward on, everyone seems to be in agreement that we do want to look for probably an interim. I think it's important that we know for sure whether an interim could indeed continue on as a full-time superintendent. Should they, we have an interim that works out really well and we say, hey, this is the person we want to keep. So I think in a motion, we would want to make sure we have that clause as part of the motion to make sure that we have that understanding. So, in your words, we don't pigeonhole somebody into something or out of.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Josh, did you have something? You turned on your mic a couple times. I don't want to miss anybody's comments or thoughts.
No, we're just going to continue the conversation as far as it sounds like we need to look internally as far as, because I don't know who that would be or who, obviously. So do we need to push that, just what Matt was saying, do we need to push this a little farther as far as opening it up? So he's already got me. So,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Well, unless there's no other discussion, I would entertain a motion. If you got one, Matt.
I can
Or if
certainly
someone
try.
else has one, I don't want to stop anybody else.
I'm waiting to hear the wording, but
That's what I was going to say. I'll
Same
see if this
thing.
works. Move to request staff to open a position for interim superintendent with the intent that the incumbent be allowed to apply for permanent superintendent if qualified and per the board's pleasure.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor of directing staff to open up a interim superintendent, and I will not repeat the whole thing, an interim superintendent, what's the word?
Position.
With some caveats, please say aye.
I,
All right, any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and we're sending some direction. So thank you for taking that on.
Very welcome.
All right, any other discussion on that item before we move on? Okay, we will move on to item 3.1, our consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
I,
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye and the consent agenda is approved. Item 4.1 is a report from our NASB director.
Not a lot to report on. The convention was good. I think everybody learned learned something, learned a lot. And other than that, NASB has not said much.
All right.
Recovering.
Yeah. All right. Any questions or guidance from anybody on the board? All right, we'll move on to item 4.2, items from board members.
I'll start. I just wanted to talk about the training session a little bit, just to let some of the folks watching and here in person know what we were able to do and lucky enough to do. The timing worked out just perfect for us as us coming in as new board members. And I got a 3-day immersive training session on just about everything you can think of. NRS 288, if I hadn't had that, I wouldn't know what you're talking about with this letters opening for negotiation and that kind of stuff. So I really feel like I've got a good, handle on things going forward. But one of the most powerful things, there were actually two that I wanted to share. One of them was what I talked about earlier, was setting goals. And it was not only just setting goals to set goals, but actually having a purpose behind them. And one of the things that was really pushed and that I agree with was having student result oriented goals, so that, you just don't have a goal to, we're going to build this building. We want to have a purpose behind it. It needs to be done for the purpose of, like, one of the statistics I learned was vocational training in schools that have that and students that attend, almost 98% of them graduate. So I think that that's something along goals that we should look at and how we can incorporate that so that we have a tangible end goal saying, we want to raise graduation from this percent to this percent. And then we can set up a path, backwards to do that. But they suggested doing about, 3 to 5 basic goals for a board is good. And they said to make them smart. It's an acronym standing for specific, measurable, attainable. And one of the presenters was relevant. The other one was result, like I talked about, student-based results. And then they need to have a timestamp on them. So, we want to raise graduation rates from 50% to 70%. And we want to do that in 3 years. That would be a goal that would fit in with that. So I just wanted to share that with you guys for anyone that didn't catch that session, but they sure talked about it a lot. It really made a big impression on me. The other one was the student, the teacher of the year that we heard from our own, from Clark County, but National Teacher of the Year. And she talked about a lot of cool stuff, but one of the ones that really hit me there was shared community spaces and how they did the gardening and kind of got the whole community working together. And I'd love to see that as something moving forward in our goals to try and work towards those types of spaces in our campuses to get the community interacting, and it kind of helps build everything up, not just school, but the whole community. So those were a couple neat features from a lot of things that we were all able to learn at this conference. So, I just kind of wanted to share that with you. And that's something I'm going to be trying to look at is goals of those nature. I've talked to a few people and also looking for other suggestions, but I'll be bringing more of those to you as I'm able to find different goals, maybe things that we could work towards, and an open invitation to my emails on the website. If anybody has anything, I'd love to hear from you. So that's anyway what I had.
Thank you.
I'll go next. Just to piggyback off of, we went to that same session about the goals. And one of the takeaways I got from that was to get back to our meetings should be at least 50% talking about student outcomes.
Yeah.
And that really stuck in my head. It's like, that's what we need to be talking about. Not that we have other business to take care of and you have to talk about that, but he really focused on, you really need to 50% of your time. And he also had a good idea about laying out your calendar. So if your goals are like a 5-year goal, you have a 5-year calendar so that we can put on the calendar, such and such a date, we're going to talk about a piece of this goal. Then the next date, it's a piece of number 3 goal, and until you get it all talked about. And I thought that was a good idea too. So you kind of know what it is you're going to be talking about, as well as the public knowing what we're going to be talking about. And that was an excellent conference. I really enjoyed going there. I went to the Road Trip Nation over at the new Fine Arts Building, Performing Arts Building. All the juniors came in. The building, first of all, is beautiful. I didn't get to see the classrooms, so I hope to go back and see that. But the presentation was really good because they were talking about careers from Nevada, and then they had some people in Nevada, but one was from Tesla. I think there was an article in the paper, but it was fun. It was fun to go to, and I think most of the kids got some ideas off of that. So it was nice to go to that. And then I did visit Mountain View that same day. They were doing like a sorting hat type thing, like Harry Potter. And Mountain View is where I used to teach. So it was fun to go in there because it looks, I haven't been there in a long time. So it looks a lot different. It's castle-like as you come in. And they take the kindergartners, which there were 6 afternoon classes. So to go from juniors in the morning to little kindergartners was so cute. And but anyway, so they sort into different houses and I wrote them down. They have the house of courage, dreams, wisdom, kindness, and friendship. And then they get a t-shirt, like the houses are different colors. And then they get a t-shirt and a little bracelet. And those little kids were so excited. And then they stay in that house all through their Mountain View career. And so like the 4th graders will come talk about, hey, I'm in that house too. And so they have some activities together once they get going, but just to see them in their little t-shirts, it was a fun activity and they liked it too. They were like, this is the best day ever. It was just, so I thought that was a good activity. So that's what I have.
Thank you. Anything else from this end?
Want me to go? Okay. So the training was fantastic. It definitely helped get us a good boot camp into this new position. So I was really happy that I ran down there on a Wednesday night and stayed for the Thursday training. That was a whole ordeal, but it was fantastic. It really helped me kind of change my mind on how unique Elko is as a district. Right, being from Elko, I kind of know the nuances that growing up here. And then when I got to talk to other board members from other counties and how we've impacted, how Elko continues to impact the state and the position that it's in, just the unique challenges, but the unique positivity that comes from Elko and its identity. So it helped me kind of change some mindsets to help further doing this position and the choices we're going to make for the children. The training helped with transparency so that I know what we need to do as far as informing the community too as well. So I'm really excited. It kind of turned the corner from holy smokes, what I get myself into to this is going to be fantastic. I can't wait to continue forward. So I'm really excited. So Matt, you can go.
Thanks. I just wanted to make sure there was enough power still, that when I started talking, it would last. So no, I'm going to try to keep it pretty short. I also agree on the NASB conference. It was terrific. Timing could not have worked out better, I think, for the 4 of us that were brand new, are brand new. I think that worked great. And to echo a little bit off of what Josh had said, it was amazing to me how it seemed that every single other board member across the state came up and said, thank you for stepping up. So Josh is absolutely right. What happens in Elko is not stay in Elko. It does have impact statewide, and it impacted every board. They were all kind of keeping an eye on it. So let's never as a community put that type of spotlight on us again. Let's make sure that we put the spotlight on it that's positive. And I think, again, to Josh's point, I think we can do that, pretty easily. On what Jeff was saying, I wholeheartedly agree with the goals. I think that now is the time for us to strike, for us to come together as a board and say, these are the goals that we're looking for. We're here for another year, hopefully longer, but at least another year. And I would request that we do try to find time to have a board retreat specific to developing goals. And while also doing that, also work on additional team development. I think that the trip down there was great for us to be able to sit, have our meals together and talk and learn a little bit about each other. But I think team development is also important so that we know where our boundaries are individually, because we all have different boundaries there, but also where our strengths lie and where we might need some help to shut Matt up so that others can talk. So I would like to see if we could get that done, hopefully within the next 6 weeks, because I agree we need to try to have our goals in place certainly before the next superintendent is permanently hired. So thank you. I think that's all I have for the evening, other than a very happy Thanksgiving to everyone. We hope that you enjoy your time with your family. If you're traveling, safe travels. And thank you all for the support that we've gotten so far.
Thank you, Matt. Ira, anything to add? All right. They said it all. That's good. That's good. Well, as far as the goals go, I totally agree. That's definitely something that's not just on my radar, but in my, planner. We definitely need to come up with a time. I know I talked to Jeff about that. And Jeff, would you like to talk about the school improvement plans? Or are you going to touch on that in your superintendent's
I'll talk
report?
about in my superintendent's report.
Okay, all right. And I think when he talks about that, it'll help guide us a little bit so that we know, as we look at the district improvement plan and the school improvement plans, that can help guide where we want to go as a board as well. Because I know people spend a lot of time on those plans and we want to be able to recognize that work and as a board work with the rest of the district to make sure we're all headed in the same direction to improve things for our students and continue to make Elko County a great place for kids to be and get a great education and for people to live and enjoy the schools, enjoy the community, and just be a fantastic place to be. So again, I'm looking forward to the goals, and we'll get a little bit of input from Jeff on that. And just looking forward to working with all of you as a board. It was great to be there together for the training. Like you've said, people have had their eyes on Elko County, and it was really nice to be there with other board members who were very supportive and just said, "Hey, we're here for you. We understand that things are challenging right now. We're going through our own challenges, but thanks for hanging in there. We appreciate that, and we're glad to be able to support you." So anything else from any board members? All right, we'll look forward to item 5.1, our superintendent's report.
Okay, well, I'll start with some good news. I sent messages out to the board, but we were notified by the state epidemiologist on Friday that we have 5 more schools that are no longer on outbreak status: Sage Elementary, Adobe Middle, Carlin, Northside Elementary, and Flagview Intermediate. So that brings that list to those 5 plus Mountain View Grammar School number 2 and Spring Creek Middle School. So the schools we have now that are still on outbreak, the elementary schools would be Liberty Peak and Spring Creek Elementary and Southside at this point in time. We still have the combined schools of Wells, Carlin, Hawaii, and Jackpot. And then the 2 big schools, Elko High School and Spring Creek High School. So we're getting there. And so we're seeing positive trends still. Okay, we still have cases popping up here and there. So we're not out of the woods yet, but I thought that was good news.
But the numbers are.
Yeah, they really flattened out. Yeah. But Flagview was let off the list, yesterday, and Flagview had 2 cases today. So, every time you sort of get a little momentum going, then you have something take place there. So with that being said, hopefully they continue where they're at. Hopefully we get everybody off these mask mandates, because I think it'll make everybody much happier, and also that means less people are sick. So that's a good thing. And we have less contact tracing and all the type of stuff that is related to that. I wanted to share with the board that we met with the STEM Fair Committee, the Science Fair Committee, and that's going to actually take place this year. It's going to be a live event. It'll be held at the Convention Center on March 7th through March 10th. The poster judging portion of that will happen on January 12th. The site fairs will happen on February 23rd. And then the actual science fair will be week of March 7th through 10th. So that's good news. And I'm sure that, if anybody for certain, you want to go to that award ceremony, because that's a lot of fun to participate in that award ceremony. The second thing is it's an outstanding event to just go spend some time up there to see what our kids have produced. We will have the grand prize winners, come to the board meeting. That's a process that takes place every year. Before And then after they go to the National Science Fair. So that's all good stuff. So I wanted to mention that. And then I have a construction report on there. If anybody has any questions about the construction projects, we have Casey in the room and he can talk in detail to that. And I had a couple board members call this week and ask about in lieu of transportation contracts and boarding contracts. And just so everybody knows, so by statute, okay, the board put that policy in place years back for those parents that are really in isolated areas. We pay them a transportation stipend to get the kids to the bus stop. And so on dirt roads, it's 20 cents a mile, I believe. And on paved roads, it's 17.5 cents a mile. And then we also have boarding contracts for those families that are isolated to where they can bring their kids to town and they'll get paid $10 a day for those kids to board at, another family's house, sort of the way that works. So that's something that's been in place for a while. I also had questions about, there was one other thing I was going to bring up. Didn't write it down. Matt, what did you ask me about today? Something about policy.
Sure, you want me to start on this? All right. Let's see here. So on the policy, it really just had to do with the union stuff that we kind of already talked about.
Okay.
On the Ecta and the ECSSO as to why they was in there.
So the board knows that we have, the administrators unioned up this past year. Okay, they aren't quite as far along in that process yet, where they're not formally recognized. Okay, so next year at this time, you're going to see a letter for them to the EMRB to being recognized as a bargaining team. They're just not quite there yet. Okay. And then, we can talk about goals a little bit. So I thought it was interesting that we went through the conference down there. And then I get an email 2 days later that the State Board of Education is working on goals right now. So they're developing goals. Okay. From our school district standpoint, the schools are working on their school improvement plans, which is an annual process. And so I think, if you're going to start that process, do we want to look at goals? You need to sort of understand the school improvement initiatives we have in place out there. So at this upcoming meeting, I'll work with our central office staff to have them bring that forward and do a presentation. You're not going to be able to go through all of them in one night, okay? But you can get some general ideas in regards to what initiatives we have in our schools, okay, to sort of help you, start thinking in regards to what direction we want to go with how these goals work. I think that AJ was outstanding down there, okay, and I do believe that there might be some money available to where he might be able to come up here and actually work with us. He's going to work with Clark and Washoe for certain. But if he could come up there, when we've done this before, it's better to have a third party that sort of facilitates a little bit because, they can provide more guidance. I mean, he even talks about that the superintendent doesn't need to be in the room when you're determining that type of stuff. You know what I mean? So anyways, I think that might be a good, segue into that by starting off with the school improvement plans we have in place. And, also to sort of look at the goals we have in place right now and the reasoning behind those goals. So we could talk about that too.
Jeff, I think the policy question may also have to do with the early outs, how a whole bunch of elementary schools were on December 1.
Yeah, you'll see where, we'll have schools requesting partial days for student or for staff development, okay? So schools can get up to 5 days a year to use for staff development. We have some issues now because from a transportation standpoint, we're limited, okay, and how many kids we can haul on today because of the social distance that takes place within the buses, okay, and the number of buses we have. So any, partial days this year, we're having the communities have all the elementaries do it at one time. So we're not having transportation issues in how we're doing that. So that's why you're seeing these coming in groups now. And Candace has limited those schools to 1 partial day per quarter. Okay, so we're not getting too many days. In the meantime, so those December 1st days, those are all, each school sort of has some different plans in place in regards to the staff development they're going to work on. And Candace could talk to more detail on some of those schools, you know what I mean? But that being said, that's sort of that process. Normally, you wouldn't see them all come in and be taking place on one day like that. Normally, you're going to see them sort of scattered throughout the year based on where those schools are working on their school improvement plans or whatever initiatives they might be have in place. But this year, they're synced up on the same day because we have limited transportation. And I think that's all I have.
All right, any questions for Jeff?
I have one question about AJ working with us. is that to be paid from the Nevada School Board Association funding, or does that come from our funding?
No, that, the conversation that I understood was it was going to come from the Nevada Association. They might have money available to help facilitate that in the rural districts.
And do we need to follow up to make sure that happens, or how do we make sure?
I am following up on that. So I have been in contact with Deb, and she is working on helping us get funding so that we can
Great.
facilitate having a goal-setting helper here, I
Right.
guess. I'm sure there's a better title for him than that, but he was really great, very, very student-focused. And so, yeah, I'm following up, and as soon as I hear from Deb whether there is funding for that, we will move forward
Great,
in a quick manner as soon as we know.
thank you.
I'd be happy to get any information too regarding any of the existing goals we may be working under, or all that. I finished NRS 288, so my evenings are free for some reading. If any of that's available and you want to send along the way, I would sure appreciate it.
Okay,
Just to prep for the next session.
okay. We'll get something out to you guys.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes,
Only
please.
2 questions, I promise. And actually one in a comment. The school improvement plans, is there on that cycle, is there a date where they're due, or does each school kind of have its own cycle?
CJ can probably talk to that better than anybody else at this point in time.
Hello, everyone. So your question is just about timeline for the school performance plans?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so officially, as of about 2:00 today, every single one of our school performance plans are completed and turned into the state. The due date for this, the inaugural year of this new CIP beta was November 30, or is November 30th, but we have obviously met that timeline. The original initial copy that everyone turned in for revision or for review and revision was November 1st. Keith, Candace, Ray, and I all met with each of the principals, be it in person or virtually, and kind of collectively, our input was given to them, their colleagues' input of the other principals that were there. We all kind of commented, and here's what we think, and take it or leave it. And they made their revisions. And after that point, I worked with them one-on-one to make sure they all kind of crossed all the T's and dotted the I's, so to speak, so that the state would also approve of the, meeting all the criteria that we had to meet. So yeah, there, as far as a big timeline, yeah, November 30th was the date. But that's not the only timeline for the remainder of the year. With this new process, there is also there are several status checks that take place because of the elongated original turn-in time. The first status check has been kind of deferred, or we've been made exempt from that, or we're in the process of being made exempt from that because we're just now implementing them. So it doesn't make sense to check how we're doing on something we're starting. So we are getting those going. The next status check will be in March, and the last status check for the year will be right about the end of the school year, so that we are constantly evaluating how they're making progress toward their goals all throughout the remainder of the school year. And then the culmination of this year actually bleeds into the beginning of next year. So it is a truly ongoing and continuous improvement process. So we're all learning together during this the first year, but it's so far so good. It's really impressive how they all just kind of grabbed the bull by the horns and really made it their own. So I'm looking forward to whatever we're going to share with you about it. I'm excited about it because I'm happy with and proud of the products that our site administrators have put together and their teams. They didn't do it by themselves. They had good collaboration among their individual communities and schools. So
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, just thank you.
Oh, that's it? Okay.
Only one question from that.
All right. And then comment, Candace, please thank the site administrators for working together and collaboratively on getting all of the teacher work days. Yeah, the advancement for them all on one. So I think that does work better, and I appreciate them working collaboratively on that. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'll pass that on.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else for that item? Not, we'll move on to item 6.1, approval of the accounts payable. Any questions, discussion?
Are you just doing, are you doing
Motion?
the three separately or all together?
I believe we can do them together unless someone specifically
Madam
wants to.
Chair,
Hold
if
on,
I
hold on.
may,
I have a financial interest and will be abstaining for the teaching tech accounts
Okay.
payable.
Okay.
great. And thank you. I was going to suggest that perhaps we do split it up.
We can. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. Only a
Can I
few
ask
questions.
Julie a question then?
Sure.
On the accounts payable, the $100,000 to the insurance, is that just because? it
I
gets so
think
low
that
in the upgrade?
was a million, right?
Or maybe it was. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't see well without my glasses.
So they needed November and some of December's insurance premiums advanced to pay some of the claims that have come in.
Okay.
Stop loss. And so we renew those things in the fall, okay? And so at times we benefit by advancing money to pay off all the claims are gonna get pulled back into that plan year, okay? And get the benefit from our aggregate and stop loss carriers. Stop loss carriers, you can't get reimbursed until you actually pay the claims. So sometimes we'll have a timing adjustment in the fall, where we'll make an advance, okay, to make those payments to get the benefit out of the previous plan year, okay? And then those premiums in future months are reduced by that advance that you gave the previous month.
And you're right. 100,000. So on the next board docs, you'll see a million.
Okay,
You're right.
thank you.
Sorry, Julie.
It's okay. No, thank you.
Julie, just a few questions, I hope. There's a subsidy for retirees, $37,212. I think that was on about page 3. Sorry, it's page 2, bottom of page 2, a retiree subsidy.
Yeah, so that's PEB's Public Employee Benefit Plan, SB 286. That's a monthly retiree subsidy.
And so that retiree that's separate from PERS?
Yes, that would be more like OPEB, other than retirement health insurance.
So the state's insurance program is called PEBS.
Right.
And so back in the early 2000s, they passed a law, AB 286, that allowed school district retirees to join the state's insurance plan. And the intent behind that was to hopefully benefit the state's insurance plan and provide benefits to those employees. The problem with that is they overloaded the state plan with a bunch of expensive retirees, okay? And so now it's sort of been offset. So that being said, we did have a number of employees that joined that at that point in time. And we were actually paying about $50,000 to $80,000 a month in premiums back in the 2000s, but slowly but surely we had them drop off, okay, or they joined back into our plan. And so that number is much smaller than that, but that's a monthly premium to the state insurance program for retirees from the Elko County School District to join the state insurance program rather than the school district insurance program.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe no one else can join that anymore, right? So that'll continue.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. On page 7, there's $12,845.75 to Gatekeeper Systems USA under transportation.
Yeah, so that's parts and supplies and camera systems for the buses.
And how many of our buses have camera systems?
I'd have to ask transportation, but I think it's most or all of them.
Okay, thank you. There are also a few mentions of SB 178. I'm assuming that's Senate Bill 178, and that is with our new breakdown in classification classes with gate and weighted funded. Thank
Oh.
you. Is that correct? Is that what that
Yep,
references?
that's
Okay.
weighted funding.
Okay, thank you. The last item I have is towards the bottom of the list. I think it may be the last page. there are two payments in the exact amount, $10,863 to Wendover Gas.
Yeah, so if you look at the third to last sequence in the code,
Okay,
there's 507 and 607. So the utility bill is split between the middle school and the high school.
great. Thank you. And Madam Chair, I rest for now.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments on the accounts payable? Before I entertain a motion to split them up and approve each of them individually.
I move to approve the accounts payable November 23, 2021.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Julie, thank you. Any discussion on that? All right, all in favor of approving the accounts payable for November 23rd, 2021, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and those are approved. We have two more items to consider.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion. We approve the teaching tech accounts payable for November 23rd.
Second,
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or abstentions, disclosures?
I have a financial interest, so I'll be abstaining.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and we have one abstention, and otherwise the motion carries. The next one is the Wells Rural Electric accounts payable November 23rd, 2021.
Madam Chair, move to approve the Wells Rural accounts payable for November 23, 2021.
A second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. I will disclose that I have a family member who is employed by Wells Rural Electric, so I will also be abstaining. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor of approval of the Wells Rural Electric accounts payable November 23rd, 2021, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, and chair abstains, but the motion carries. All right, we'll move on to item 7.1, a final opportunity for input from the public. I know, Ms. Hoffman, come on up. We know you would like to finish off.
Waiting for me to give you the end of this. The FDA has asked the court for 55 years before they are required to release Pfizer data that they received before approving the vaccines. Why? The CDC has stopped reporting breakthrough cases. This is any kind of cases that they've been told about, including now hospitalizations and deaths. Why? And they're saying the mainstream media today is warning of large numbers of breakthrough cases in the most highly vaccinated states. Why has the CDC and other health agencies discouraged the use of early treatments that are working well in other countries, as well as the US, when not banned? With early treatment options, you probably already know this, the FDA would not have been able to get the EUA approval for the vaccines. Think you could go out and get your antibodies tested so that you would be considered to be safe? The FDA has removed about 270 of the antibody tests that had emergency use authorization. And now there are only 90 that are being allowed. Why? Why has Fauci and others said that only the vaccine works and your natural immunity doesn't count for anything? Why are businesses not allowing exemptions for immunity from a previous COVID infection? That does not happen with other vaccines. And this one is really interesting. You probably already know it though. The state of Nevada and Elko County is now adding the results of the antigen tests, the quick tests, for tests and positivity numbers. In the past, those tests had to be followed up with a positive PCR test. And these results are affecting our numbers and adding to the quarantine, masking, and retesting requirements for school and work. You may not know that the Pfizer booster is exactly the same as Pfizer's first two shots. but the Moderna booster is only half of their dose. The state public health department is going to be mandating for schools, this vaccine for schools in the 2022-2023 year, if not sooner. As members of the school board, it is your duty to protect our children as well as to provide for their education. This is not an easy task, but I know that you will do it. I really believe in this new board, and I know you will do everything you can to help to protect our children. Thank you.
Good timing. All right. Is there anyone else present that wishes to make a comment?
Thank you, President Dastrup and members of the board. Just a couple of quick comments. First thing, I would really appreciate a comment on the status of the search for the District 5 representative. I don't know if that is still open, if you're receiving any new applications or whatever. So I really appreciate the board updating the public on that. I note on a separate topic that under the consent agenda, it always says unless a board member or visitor in the audience has a question concerning a particular item, but there is no document attached that allows a board member to, or I mean, a member of the public to see what's in the consent agenda. So essentially, you're approving that, and we don't really know what's in that. My mind's gone blank. I had 3 quick points I wanted to make or requests. My apologies. There was a third item, but thank you for that time.
All right, thank you. All right, we do have an email to read into public comment. It says, hello, my name is Catherine Kelly and I am a Spring Creek resident. I am a mom and an educator. I had a few questions that I was hoping could be answered either tonight or by being added to the agenda at future meetings. I would like to know what the district is doing to continue to recruit teachers and subs for our district. As we know, finding teachers this year was hard enough, but substitutes has become even harder. How is the board pursuing qualified substitute teachers to educate our children when our teachers are out? This extends to paraprofessionals as well. I would like to know what trainings the school district is providing to our substitutes and paraprofessionals in order to ensure that they are properly trained in how to interact with our children, both academically and personally. In previous districts, substitute teachers would be required to attend 1 8-hour training where they would go over district policies and behavior and class management systems. The district does not currently offer any sort of training. This needs to change. Number 2, the next item I would like to address is social studies curriculum. The current social studies books were published when I was in high school. That means that our social studies curriculum is over 15 years old. With new history being discovered every day and different perspectives being added, what is the district's plan for updating our curriculums in the elementary school? I understand the social studies and curriculums adoptions in general take years, but what is the district doing to support teachers while this adoption is occurring? I have attached my email so that any member of the board can reach out to me with further questions and to answer my questions either in an agenda item or personally. On a side note, it was nice to see a full board up there. Please change what you can and figure out the best path for what you can't. Thanks, Catherine Kelly. All right. Anyone else? Please.
Hi, so I would like to address you guys as a parent of the school district. Obviously, while I've been out doing these meetings and actually going to an opposition meeting, one of the big things that we've heard is transparency. We have a few people that are here constantly, and whatever their opinion is, I'm grateful that they are here because they're showing up, they're being a part of this. These people that are constantly complaining about transparency aren't here. They're not here to ask the questions. They're not here to get the answers. They walk out in the middle of the board meetings. it boggles my mind. And I did touch on it a little bit in my letter to the editor. So I think us as parents and citizens of Elko County need to step up. We need to be held accountable, and we need to do our due diligence for what you guys are doing and what you guys are presenting. The other thing that I would like to bring up is I would encourage you new board members to go out and introduce yourselves to our other elected officials, our mayor, our commissioners, those kind of things. Because the other thing that's coming up is you guys are a new board. You're not to be trusted. Let them know who you are. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President, may I have my last 30 seconds? I remember.
You may have your last 30 seconds. I wasn't timing. I'll let our timer tell you when your time's up.
Well, and maybe it was more, I don't know. Anyway, Lee Hoffman again. I hear the board commenting on the terrific training. I'm really glad you got training. And I really appreciate the cooperative element of the board. But I encourage you to remember that you represent the citizens of your district, and don't allow yourselves to be overtrained by the bureaucracy into not thinking for yourselves also, and remembering that you represent that. I just encourage you not to fall into groupthink. I do understand that once the board makes a decision, that's the decision of the board. But please don't just go into groupthink. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Looks like we are ready to move into closed session. So thank you all for attending this evening. We appreciate your presence, whether it's here or virtually, and hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving and everyone drive home safely. Would the board like a 5-minute recess before